We want to take you to Senate, which has already resumed regarding the contentious county revenue allocations formula. Let's cross over live and listen in.
As the system was celebrating, suddenly, and I say suddenly, there is going to be a war in this country. There is going to be a writing on the wall. Mene, Tekel, and Parisi. We will not sit here to discuss anything until Senator Malala, Senator Lelegwe, and Senator Lagat are here. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I request Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. to second.
Okay, order. Just like I did make a correction in the morning, let the order be read.
Read.
Order number 2, motion, approval of the third basis for revenue allocation among the county governments.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Mr. Speaker, when we left chamber, we drove to Senator Malala's residence. We found him there. There were 4 Subaru vehicles and numerous armed policemen, some in VX. Mr. Speaker, we proceeded to inquire, by virtue of our training and by virtue of the law, the reasons for the arrest of Senator Malala. There was no warrant of arrest. The officers said, call the DCI. We have just been given instructions. Mr. Speaker, on further inquiry as to the circumstances that would lead to the suspicion, the arrest of Senator Malala, would you believe it, Speaker? The person in charge told us that Senator Malala is accused of having distributed Government of Kenya sanitizers in Mumias yesterday. And Speaker, I want to look into your eye because I'm addressing you. He was distributing sanitizers in Western Province. Yesterday, in Mumias in particular, yesterday, Senator Kasanga was in the press, our own senator, talking about COVID millionaires, people who have stolen masks, sanitizers to go and sell. Senator Malala was distributing sanitizers to widows. They misled us, Mr. Speaker, and this is very challenging because as lawyers, myself including Senator Omogeni, should not have let Senator Malala off. But we were told there's mischief in this chamber. So against our oath as lawyers, Mr. Speaker, we have come to address you. Against our oath, we have let Senator Malala, who was supposed to go to Nairobi, Nairobi area, is now on his way to Mumias. Mr. Speaker, it is you, and I'm looking at you. It is you, Mr. Speaker, who has been defied. And Mr. Speaker, if you cannot sit on that seat, this will be a good time to resign. I can sit there. Because this is a chamber of parliament. It is to an extent, Mr. Speaker, you have such powers that if there was a vacancy in the executive, Mr. Speaker, you could be a president. And for even a rumor, Mr. Speaker, that you're under pressure. I hear you're under pressure. Pressure from who? Did God call you? Did you speak to God this afternoon, Mr. Speaker? Who is pressurizing you?
It's good you said it's a rumor.
Yes.
Because I'm not under any pressure.
Mr. Speaker, if you are not under any pressure, and nobody has called you, Mr. Speaker, this session must end now. Because if you gazetted a special sitting, Mr. Speaker, and somebody distributed sanitizers, and that is a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor to the extent, Mr. Speaker, we would have paid for a bond, would have finished this business, and Senator Malala would have been charged even if they wanted to take him to Somalia or Kakuma. Mr. Speaker, there has never been a day since your election that you're under trial. It's not us. We have done our bit. If you can issue a directive seated in your chair, and Mr. Speaker, somebody says he's on leave. Imagine what would happen, Mr. Speaker, if the car that is driving Senator Malala at high speed rolls somewhere in Naivasha. God forbid. Would the cabinet secretary be on leave also? The contempt that they are treating us, the contempt they treat people who are elected, Mr. Speaker, tells you, Mr. Speaker, that this country is on the brink. But let me just finish, because in my anger I might say something that might lead to things I don't want to say. This is what the 32nd president said, and I'm talking to the powers, because other than taking my life, you have nothing, no control over me. He said this in 1941. We too, born to freedom and believing in freedom, are willing to fight and maintain freedom. We and all others who believe deeply, as we should, would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. We will not live on our knees. If, Mr. Speaker, you even direct we proceed, there will be so much chaos in this floor, Mr. Speaker. There will be no action. You will have to call police to arrest all of us, because we cannot proceed, Mr. Speaker. It is chilling to think, Mr. Speaker, that we can proceed when our senators are being taken across the country on the highway by force, with people carrying guns. Mr. Speaker, if there has been a violation of Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order, Senator Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Murkomen will not teach me how to prosecute my business here, because I was brought here by the people of Homa Bay. Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to disrupt Senator Mutula. I feel him and I hear him. Could you, Mr. Speaker, just advise him not to threaten chaos in the House? That would be the orderly way to proceed.
Senator Mutula.
Senator Kajwang is my friend. Senator Kajwang is famous for blowing whistles. He's the wrong person to advise Senator Mutula. Keep your cool, boy. The same person who blew whistles on the president is advising me about chaos? What are you talking about? Listen to wisdom. Listen. This is not a laughing matter. The life of your colleagues is on the line. We could leave this chamber and allow you to pass whatever you want to pass. We walked out of this chamber. The election laws were passed. They were nullified by the court. What the hell do you think you guys are doing to us? It's not going to happen. We must speak as a Senate. And that means, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. Speaker enforce your direction. It's not us. You are not an inferior person to the Cabinet Secretary.
What's your point of order, Senator Matangi?
Mr. Speaker, equally too, I would absolutely not want to interrupt the flow of thought, and the wave of rising emotion that Senator Mutula Kilonzo is up to on this matter. All of us feel it, Mr. Speaker. My point of order, Mr. Speaker, there is only one speaker in this House, which is yourself.
Order, members.
And so, Senator Wambua,
make your point of order.
Cannot direct me. Mr. Speaker, my point of order is very simple,
yeah.
Mr. Speaker. Is the Senator for Makueni in order? When we left this House, you give directions. Now, why, Mr. Speaker, is the Senator for Makueni saying, what are you trying to do to us? Who? We. And Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, Senator Kindiki spoke before I could raise a point of order. When Mr. Speaker...
Oh, wind up your point of order. Wind up.
Mr. Speaker...
Order, members. Order.
Mr. Speaker...
Senator Wamatangi, we did agree on how you prosecute your point of order.
The question I'm asking, Mr. Speaker, which I'm pointing out which is out of order, is that it is wrong for Senator Makueni to impute improper motive by whichever way, by telling this House and the country that there are senators here who are doing anything against them, Mr. Speaker. We are united in this matter, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
And the threat of chaos, Mr. Speaker, will not sell either.
Okay. You have made your point of order. Okay. Senator Mutula Kilonzo, continue.
Mr. Speaker, I was finishing my remark. And if I confuse Senator Wamatangi, I want to say that when I say we, I mean lots of people. I mean we. Mr. Speaker, a narrative has been planted in this House. The other day, Bishop Muller of AIC told me when the churches were closed, that when you close churches, the devil rules. After COVID, I think we allowed the devil to walk into this chamber. That devil is ruling this chamber. And that devil, Mr. Speaker, is the devil that says that you can pit 24 against 23 or 29. 3 people, those are not 3 votes. Those are 3 senators. Mr. Speaker, 3 senators. One of them, the deputy of Senator James Orengo. This matter is, even if we sound emotional, Mr. Speaker, what I've seen today in front of my eyes, as we told the police, allow us to take Senator Malala to chamber and you will hand over to him to whatever you want. Blocked the road, and guess what, Mr. Speaker? They put handcuffs on the gate so that we don't leave. The estate was locked using handcuffs. Mr. Speaker, how sad can we get? Mr. Speaker, I support this motion, not because of anything, but Mr. Speaker, I cannot imagine sitting in this House to debate anything. Mr. Speaker, because Senator Malala is not just a voter. Senator Lelegwe is not just a voter. Senator Bomet is not just a voter in this House. They are elected senators, and they are human beings. If the government of Kenya is not human, just 2 senators, Mr. Speaker, I pity your role today. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the debate be now adjourned. Senator Ali Abdullah. Order. If you want to talk, then I cannot put the question.
Yes, put the question. No.
But if you want to vote, then I put the question.
No.
Okay. Senator Abdullahi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The other day, Honorable Orengo told us that people need to talk here. There's democracy. So don't push us. We want to talk, and that's why we came here. We came to this House to talk. We were brought by our people here to talk and to fight for their right, Mr. Speaker. The issue of the revenue allocation, we cannot continue with it. We cannot discuss it until our friends are brought back, Mr. Speaker. This is not right. This cannot happen. This cannot continue. I'm surprised by some people here who are jumping up and down. In 1998, Mr. Speaker, when I was in the National Assembly, Senator Ndriga knows very well what used to happen here. Are we going back to that stage? That's exactly where we are going. I'm sorry to say this. We cannot be intimidated. Kaniri knows what was happening in those days. I was in Kanu, but I was a rebel in Kanu. And I used to have a rough time. Mr. Speaker, sir, now I'm an old man. I thought, after we have gone through all those problems, after what has happened to this country, after the removal of 2A, after everything else, Mr. Speaker, now we are going back to worse areas than that. This is not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. This House should adjourn until, even if it's up to 8, I don't mind. If people want to discuss the formula, we have all the time we can discuss it. Nobody is going to die because the formula has not been passed. Nobody is going to call because of not get money because the county government should get their share, the 50%, Mr. Speaker. There is no vacuum here. This one, if we allow what some people are trying to do here, Mr. Speaker, that we continue. I went to Nairobi, whatever, police headquarters today because I was told Langat is there. When I went there, I was told he's nowhere. Kumbe, the guy has been taken to Bomet. Why do they have to cheat? Why don't they just take them there and give them what they need to do? Why don't they take them to court? Mr. Speaker, I talked to Lelengwe when he was passing Naivasha in the blindfolded. Is this right? Why should this happen to us? What have we done to deserve this? Just because our counties are losing and we say no to that formula? Some people have to go. Arrest all of us, put us all in jail. Until you do that, then this one should not continue, Mr. Speaker. This is very wrong. Members of this House, look at your friends. What is happening to your brothers? Think. If you think you have the powers now, there's nothing about power here. I'm supposed to be in Jubilee, Teraki Eleweke of all, Mr. Speaker. But I'm opposed to this because my people are losing. Should I be arrested because of that? I don't think that is right. Yes, I have no shame, and I say it. And it's the truth, Mr. Speaker. But this is not the way to go. This is not a tribal issue. This is not a regional issue. This has nothing to do with other people. This issue of the formula is for this House. Let the members of this House decide. Let all the people of this House lead us proper. We cannot be taken back. Mr. Speaker, I beg that we are allowed to adjourn this House and you give instructions that we can go even for a retreat to Naivasha, discuss these issues alone, and we can come with an amendment and come with a solution, Mr. Speaker. But not at the expense of our people being put to jail, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support.
Senator George Khaniri.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the chairman of our Security Committee, Senator Yusuf Haji, for convening the meeting that you ordered them to convene. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to state here categorically that we will not entertain the reason that have been given by the chairman Haji for government not responding to what you ordered the committee to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, your order is being treated with contempt. This House is being treated with contempt, and we must stand up to be counted to defend this House. Mr. Speaker, I have been here long enough, and I can read through the crude strategy that is being employed by those who are pushing for this formula to go through. It is indeed crude, archaic. There's a better way they can do it. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion as moved by Senator Kindiki, Professor, and seconded by Senator Mutula, and state that I, George Khaniri, the Senator for the Great County of Vihiga, will not participate in any debate on the formula until my brother Malala is brought back here, until Senator Dr. Langat is brought back here, until Senator Dr. Lelegwe is brought back here. I will not participate. Mr. Speaker, the reasons that we adjourned this morning was that we want to find out why our colleagues have been detained and we said that we'll only proceed with the debate after ascertaining the true position. To me, the reasons that send us on that adjournment still prevail, and therefore we cannot continue with the debate. We will not continue with the debate unless the people of Kakamega are represented here by their duly democratic elected Senator Malala. I will not allow. This is a very critical vote that we are supposed to take. I know there is the provision of appointing a proxy from the delegation to vote for you. But these two particular senators, Senator Malala and Senator Langat, have written to you officially, Mr. Speaker, saying that this is a critical matter, that they would not want anybody or any proxy to vote on their behalf. We must grant them that, Mr. Speaker. At least we must grant them that. Mr. Speaker, I was among the team that went to Senator Malala's house after we adjourned. And I think Senator Mutula Kilonzo has narrated what we saw over there. It is such a shame, Mr. Speaker. It's a shame that the regime is taking us back to the years where we fought so hard to come from. Mr. Speaker, this cannot happen in this era and age. We want to tell the regime, and I said this in the morning, we fear no one, only God. No amount of intimidation will make us change our stand on this matter. We will fight to the bitter end to ensure that there is equity. We urge you, Mr. Speaker, to put your foot down. Your orders and rulings cannot be treated with contempt that I'm seeing here, Mr. Speaker. Put your foot down, and you have the law behind you that supports you. Don't you allow this House to continue with this debate until the fate of your 3 members is known. I thought they had committed some serious criminal offenses. But when we got to Malala's house, we were told the reason he's arrested is because he was distributing sanitizers to people in Mumias without observing COVID protocols. Is that a reason to block a senator from coming to execute his mandate? It's a shame, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will not allow this. I strongly support that the House adjourns until this matter is resolved. I support the motion.
Senator Kangata, then Murkomen. You are the next one.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, my brothers from the other side are the ones who signed the petition, they requisitioned today's session. Today, well, we all know, colleagues, we have 17 colleagues who signed they want today's session. I want to tell them we are ready for the vote today. Kenyans have been waiting. Kenyans have been waiting. They have been waiting for this vote for a very long time. We are ready today. We feel for our brothers and sisters. We feel for our brothers who are currently having issues. But no one has shown any connection between that arrest and this session at all. There is no connection at all. Those are issues which are not connected to the issues. And therefore, I urge colleagues, we take this vote, and I will strongly oppose it. Reason being, we do not have a legal framework allowing government to give out 50% to the counties yet. We don't have a legal framework. So therefore, as a result of this stalemate, we are making counties not to get money to pay salaries. But that does not mean we do not have empathy to our people who have been arrested. The only problem I'm having with that argument, no single evidence has been able to show the connection between this session and our colleagues' arrests. I will urge my colleagues.
What's your point of order, Senator Millicent Omanga?
is it in order for...
Speaker, not Chair.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the majority whip to say that he is aware that the arrest is not connected with today's vote, and yet the agencies to invite and come here before them? We have no information. And Mr. Speaker, if you remember very well what Senior James Orengo said earlier, that we will only set of our colleagues. So is it in Kangata and trivialize this issue and say he knows that they are not connected with the arrest? Is it part of the CID or the agencies we were talking about?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I have a lot of respect. I strongly believe that is an opinion she has rendered, but she has not addressed the issue that I've raised. No evidence currently exists to show the connection between that arrest and today's session. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have adjourned this matter 9 times, and therefore it is the time now we make a decision. We decide the best way forward. Mr. Speaker, the idea that we are pushing, some people are pushing this session so that we cause some counties to lose. We are pushing, some people are pushing this session so that we cause some counties to lose is not true. The current options that we have on the table, none of it proposes a single county to lose money except Senator Linturi's amendment. It is the only one that is going to make 18 or 19 counties lose money today. When you look at the option by Wamatangi, no county will lose money today. When you look at the option by Senator Were, in fact, that one proposes almost 39 counties to get billions of shillings. So therefore, what we want today to ask our colleagues to do, kindly make a decision today and ensure you look at the issues objectively.
There's a point of order.
Asante Bwana Spika. Je, ni sawa ya kwamba ndugu yetu seneta wa Murang'a anaweza kusema ya kwamba wale wenzetu walio ndani hakuna chochote kimesemwa hapa kinachowahusisha, ya kwamba ni kwa sababu wao walikuwa wanakuja kwenye bunge na wakashikwa na wakazuiwa watatu katika historia ya Kenya, wabunge watatu ambao wako na mjadala muhimu sana unaohusikana na kitaifa wa ugavi wa pesa katika county, wamezuiwa. Na sasa yeye anasema ya kwamba hakuna kielelezo chochote kinaambatana ambacho kinaweza kuhusisha ule mjadala ulioko hapa na wao kama maseneta. Je, ni haki hiyo? Kwa sababu tunaelewa jukumu la kwanza kulinganishana na kipengele cha 96 cha katiba. Mimi kama mwanasheria, kila seneta anahusika na ugavi wa pesa. Si seneta wa Garissa, si seneta wa Wajir, si seneta wa Turkana, si seneta wa Kilifi, si wa Mombasa, si wa Kwale. Kila seneta hapa anahusikana na ugavi. Je, ni sawa sawa kusema kwamba leo mimi nikishikwa itakuwa si haki mimi kuja hapa kupiga kura kwa niaba ya watu wa Kilifi?
Senator Kangata, conclude.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think my point is still correct. I would be urging colleagues to produce evidence showing that connection. So far, no connection has been established, and therefore I strongly believe and I urge the House to oppose this adjournment, because we have adjourned this matter for a record 9 times. Mr. Speaker, sir, the counties are suffering. Mr. Speaker, sir, county employees have not been paid,
and there is a connection between with his statement and non-payment of dues owing to county employees, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I urge colleagues, as we oppose this adjournment motion, to take into account that this government cannot arrest a person on the basis of wanting to stop his democratic right to vote in a certain way. It cannot. This government, led by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, does not condone such actions. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have come to this House. We have lost several votes. No one has ever been victimized at all, because we believe in freedom of expression. We believe in democracy, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, anyone coming here to say that the government has caused some senators to be arrested, that is not true. However, we empathize with them. We urge them to give us instructions to go and act for them in court. We want to tell them that indeed, if at all you have been arrested for extraneous reasons, we shall pray for you and we shall send the best lawyers to represent you. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to vouch for the government that we are not here. We have not caused, there is no one has caused the arrest, and therefore we are here. I know the reason why my colleagues wants to cause this adjournment. We are ready. Let us vote. We are ready. And for us, we believe that the current options that we have, they are going to put this country ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I oppose.
Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. Then a call from the other chamber.
Mr. Speaker, I am extremely emotional when I think about the circumstance under which this House has been put. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak from, like Senator Orengo said, from my heart and from my soul and my whole body. Mr. Speaker, and I really want your attention. I want your attention without undivided attention on this matter. 2 weeks ago, a government functionary, actually in the office of the president, came to me and told me that if the formula will not pass the way government wants, some senators can even be abducted. They can even be arrested. Mr. Speaker, we discussed and joked about it. Mr. Speaker, we discussed and
What's
joked.
your point of order, Senator Bogisho?
Speaker, just so that we don't
take your seat, Senator Murkomen, somewhere.
Just, Mr. Speaker, so that we don't derail debate in any way by dilatory motions. Is my neighbor, the Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, in order to insinuate without facts, without substantiating, and Mr. Speaker, leading in a very dangerous direction of pointing out public servants and statements which really are not statements which lead us to think, Mr. Speaker, there is something that can be said like that, abduction, claiming by government. That must be substantiated. That must be somebody who said that. And we need to know.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Pokisho remembers 2 years ago when 3 Pokot young men were abducted in Kapenguria, murdered, and dumped in Kaptagat Forest in Elgeyo Marakwet County. 3 months down the line, my PA, former MCA Benson Kiptire, was abducted in Eldoret. We were with the president in town, killed and dumped in Kapenguria. He cannot pretend to be a visitor in Jerusalem. He knows that the victims of this kind of strategies have even affected the people from our 2 counties. So I'm speaking from my personal testimony. He cannot challenge my personal testimony. I am not alleging that newspapers or so forth. And let me give my story. Listen, Senator Pokisho, and listen to us, because we are senators under now the mercy of the Speaker, not under your mercy. Mr. Speaker, when he told me that we will do everything to abduct 2 or 3 senators, I thought it was a joke. On Friday, on Saturday, I put this information in public domain. Sunday, the same. Senator Langat was called by many, including leaders in this chamber, to tell him that he should leave his house, because I was with him the last night. He should leave his house, go to Bomet quietly. He will even be facilitated for as long as he doesn't come to these chambers to vote. Senator Lelekwe was saying charges will be preferred on him unless he decides to vote with government, and I don't know what's government position. I don't know what that means. Mr. Speaker, you cannot therefore say in the chambers of this House that the vote that is about Kangata is now saying, let's vote, let's vote. You can't tell me that there is no relationship with the withdrawal of 3 senators who would have voted in both the procedural motion and the substantive motion, that there is no relationship between
Let's consult the motions. Order, members.
That there is no relationship between their arrest, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, removal from the jurisdiction of this House, and the voting in this House. If that is not true, Mr. Speaker, confirm to me that no other senator in this chamber will vote on behalf of Senator Malala if that was not the plan. Confirm to me that Senator Milko has not been aligned to vote on behalf of Senator Langat, even though, Mr. Speaker, Senator Langat has written in no uncertain terms that no one else should vote on his behalf. Even though Malala has written that no one should vote on his behalf. If you confirm to me, Mr. Speaker, that that is not the position, I will know that the conspiracy we are talking about is not there. We are not children. I have been majority leader and deputy majority leader in this House for more than 5 years. The magic 24 number, we were 25 voting in this House last week. Mr. Speaker, the desire was to reduce us from 25 to 23. Transport, Mr. Speaker, the vote of Senator Langat, give it to Milko, get the, Mr. Speaker, the vote of Senator Malala, give it to one of the members of his delegation, whether it's Yongo or Msuruve, and Mr. Speaker, achieve the objective of defeating the will of the people. Mr. Speaker, you can't tell us we should just proceed. It is not possible. It is not possible, Mr. Speaker. This is Kenya. We cannot be forced, Mr. Speaker, to take positions of the minority. Mr. Speaker, you are sitting in that chair. Senator Malala was in the opposition. He was among the only few senators that voted to get you 42 votes, Mr. Speaker, to become in that chair. Senator Lelekwe and Senator Lalakat were among the 42 people who voted for you to be the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you sacrificed me. You sacrificed Susan Kihika. Don't sacrifice Kenya. Don't sacrifice, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker,
Senator
that decision is on your chair, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senator Murkomen. Senator Murkomen, you must order, members. Senator Murkomen, I know we are discussing an important motion, but you should respect the Speaker. I don't act as a person. I'm guided by the law, the standing orders, and the Constitution in this House. And the decisions I make are anchored on those two. I will not allow that. I will not allow this House to degenerate to that level.
Mr. Speaker, I love the fact that you have restated your constitutional responsibility as the Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, a report has been brought to this House that the minister is not available to come to these chambers. Soon, even before the chair sat down, the CS Matiangi has updated Mr. Speaker that he was busy launching a border information management system with the CS Musheru. The IG, Mr. Speaker, has posted that he was launching a sanitation component towards better human environmental something with the CS Matiang'i. Mr. Speaker, I respect your authority, but so others should respect your authority, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we force this House, and I'm just saying this without fear of any contradiction, if we force this House to punish 18 counties, Elgeyo Marakwet is not a losing county. Bomet, where Senator Langat has suffered, Mr. Speaker, is not a losing county. Mr. Speaker, Kakamega, where Malala comes from, is not a losing county. We are just but honest patriots who want the best for this country. We are willing to suffer for the unity of this nation. We have come this far to make this decision, Mr. Speaker, because we want to make this country to be one. History will be kind to us. Mr. Speaker, now history, the determination of an historical moment shifts to your chair, Mr. Speaker. So that, Mr. Speaker, if this House will be used by those who are sitting out there to force a decision, Mr. Speaker, against the standing orders, you have assured me that you will follow the Constitution, you will follow the standing orders, therefore you will respect the letter of Malala that no one will vote for him, you will respect, Mr. Speaker, the letter of Bomet that no one will vote for him. Mr. Speaker, if you make the same mistake you made in my situation, on this very important issue.
Order, Senator.
Position of minority leader is nothing, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Murkomen, order. Take your seat. Senator Ekal. What's your point of order, Senator Bogisho?
Mr. Speaker, if although now Honorable Murkomen has left, but Mr. Speaker, some of the claims that he has made here needed to be withdrawn because it's an attack on the chair, Speaker. And I think, Mr. Speaker, I started by saying if we allow some of these small dilatory substances that come, Mr. Speaker, it will grow bigger, and until people can now direct their eyes to the chair and almost themselves desecrate the chair. Mr. Speaker, can I just request, Mr. Speaker, that you take us back to where we belong, in the House of Order. Thank you.
Senator Orengo.
Also,
Senator Orengo
I'm also rising on a little point. It is a constitutional and a matter of procedure. And Mr. Speaker, I'm getting worried about the clerks because there are certain procedural issues that are making us now talk without conclusion. Because at the beginning there was a report by the chairman of the Security Committee. That report was given, and before there was any reaction to it, there was a motion for adjournment. It would have been important, and I'm very worried that you're on trial. You have been put on trial. And we must distinguish between what are the charges against the Speaker and what is within your powers and what are within the powers of the House. And I want to suggest to you that had we been allowed to deal with a very important report that was given by the chairman of the National Security Committee, there would have been no lamentation. We are now engaged in lamentations. And lamenting, you can do it forever. And somebody can be sitting there and saying, you know, let them talk until tomorrow. But I don't want us to be the house of lamentation. In regard to the report which was given by the chairman of the National Security Committee, we should not be taken it for granted. If it was in a court of law, before we take any step, we should be asking ourselves, what do we do with the contempt? Honorable Senator Haniri had talked to you on the issue of contempt. That's where your power is, how to deal with the contempt before we deal with the question of adjournment. There's a great violation against the dignity of the Senate, which has not been dealt with. And now you are talking generally, and we can talk generally until tomorrow without resolution. I like the speeches I'm hearing, but at the end of the day, they signify nothing. because nothing will come out of it. And I know of men and women who could speak in this house like Shikuku for a month. But at the end of the day, there was questions of relevance. What can the Senate or Parliament decide? Because Parliament does not act in vain. Yes. We went for an adjournment for a purpose. Yes. Have we achieved the purpose of that adjournment? So, Mr. Speaker, I want to invite you to look at Standing Order Article 125 of the Constitution. There are two things that are within the powers of this House. And those powers are equal to the powers of the High Court. And you can address us on those two powers because the rest, those ones you can direct. And you can direct them now, not tomorrow. The first is to not just invite, is to summon. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, when the Parliament summons, it does not matter whether you're on leave or you're on honeymoon or you're in a cabinet meeting. The summons of a Parliament, in my view, in fact, actually supersedes the summons of the High Court because we make the law. We make the law. So, Mr. Speaker, the CS was summoned and other government officials were summoned. They did not turn up. What do we do? Because we cannot just let it rest there. And some of them say, let them talk. They can talk until tomorrow. And they can come tomorrow again and they talk and complain. Mr. Speaker, I've had an incident when in the old time when KANU was what it is, that a speaker put a minister using the orderlies for 2 hours waiting for a committee because he was in contempt. You said, let him rest there until the speaker decides what to do with him. So, Mr. Speaker, if that someone has not been complied with, the second provision is that you can enforce attendance. You can enforce attendance, and there are consequences. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that it is within your power now to enforce the attendance of the Cabinet Secretary, and even the Director of Public Prosecutions, because, you know, Parliament, in his oversight role, we oversight all institutions, including the presidency. We oversight all these institutions. So I invite you, instead of lamenting, that you can stand up in that throne where you sit to deal with the contempt. And the contempt has been committed in the face of the Senate because you gave that direction. And I saw you standing up when you were giving that direction. The second issue, which is separate and distinct, and I want to persuade you that the first issue you can deal with. The second issue, it is upon us as members of the Senate. To adjourn or not to adjourn, it is not within your power, Mr. Speaker. I want to advise you, if you may take my advice. The power to adjourn, it is our powers. And we are going to invite you to exercise those powers, to allow exercise those powers to decide whether to adjourn or not to adjourn. And I addressed you earlier in the morning on why we needed to adjourn. So, Mr. Speaker, I invite you to first of all deal with the question of the contempt. And then when we finish that one, we come to the question of adjournment, where we can also address you sequentially, and we finish with the business of the House as it is in the order paper.
Yes, Senator Wetangula, is it for the point of order? There's a point of order. Then Malachi, it's a point of order. Okay, okay. Okay, I will give you point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to join Senator Orengo of Siaya And I want to draw your attention to Article 153 of the Constitution. 153.3. A cabinet secretary, whether on leave or not, shall attend, not may, shall attend before a committee of the National Assembly or the Senate when required by the committee and answer any question concerning a matter for which the cabinet secretary is responsible. Read that, Mr. Speaker, with Article 125. It vests the authority of the High Court with penal consequences on any public servant who is accountable to this House who does not appear to answer any question. I agree with Senator Orengo, Mr. Speaker, that we have totally mixed two issues. The issue of the report, I belong to the committee of Senator Haji, but I was not able to attend the meeting because I was attending some other important issues elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, when Senator Haji gave us the report, this House should have ventilated on it and made a decision on what to do with public servants who decide not to honor invitations to Parliament, which invitations can graduate to summons. The debate, Mr. Speaker, was veering towards a situation where innuendos are being thrown on the floor like you bear responsibility for the servants not coming. We want committees to exercise the authority given by this Constitution and the standing orders. All we need is to tell the clerk, send summons. And I've seen committees fine ministers, fine governors who don't appear. The arrest of colleagues, Mr. Speaker, is a very grave matter. Whatever the reasons, one cannot fail to resist the temptation to think, Mr. Speaker, that the arrest is malicious. And all the minister needs to do is to come and satisfy the committee and the House that it isn't malicious, if he has different reasons. But to simply ignore the invitation of the committee is ignoring the authority of this House and ignoring the power vested in this Senate by the people of Kenya. And I want to urge you, Mr. Speaker, to give direction to this based on the two articles of the Constitution I've pointed out and which Senator Orengo pointed out, and the standing orders of this House, so that we can be able to put to finality the continued disregard of this House. We have had situations, Mr. Speaker, where ministers, when they're invited to the lower house, they go running. When they're invited to this House, they give all manner of excuses. And this should not be condoned. On the issue of adjournment, Mr. Speaker, I agree fully with Senator Orengo that that is not, you cannot stop this House from adjourning a motion as a Speaker. You have no vote. All you need to do is to listen to us and leave it to us to decide whether we adjourn a debate or we don't adjourn a debate. And all issues brought to the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, unlike the old days when the Speaker used to have a casting vote. In the 7th Parliament, I used to sit on that chair. I was a member of the panel. And we used to have a casting vote where there is a tie. That casting vote is no longer available to the Speaker. You simply listen to us, put it to us, we decide whether to go one way or the other. And whichever decision we make, Mr. Speaker, is an enhancement of democracy. And I want to urge us as Senate. We have enjoyed a tremendous reputation in this country as a House. Even my colleagues and friends like Senator Linturi when he was promoted by the people of Meru to come to this house, from the lower house, he confided in me that he was very proud to be a senator. That is tremendously different from the house where he served previously, because he saw a lot of decorum, a lot of time for members to speak, a lot of opportunity to be listened to, and a lot of opportunity to be respected because of what we do. Let's not get carried away, my colleagues. Let's maintain that dignity. Kofi Annan used to say, I am a man with a soft voice, with a powerful message. I'm a man with a soft voice, with a powerful message. And a very soft voice can deliver a very powerful message. And that powerful message can change things. Let's try to step back from our positions of brinkmanship and maintain the dignity of this house that Kenyans love so much. If we don't do that, we will also be dragging ourselves in the same tunnel of filth that we try to avoid in being senators of this republic. Thank you.
Senator Cheriot, your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with the Leader of Minority, Senator James Orengo, that you need to guide this House on the issue that he has brought before you. But I'd wish to add a further one. Section 21, Mr. Speaker, of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act says this about false witnesses, and I'd be inviting your ruling on the same, that any person who before any committee intentionally gives false answer to any questions material to the subject of inquiry, which may be put to him during the course of examination, shall be guilty of an offense under the Section 108 of the Penal Code. Mr. Speaker, it has been reported before this House by the Chair for Security, National Security Committee, that a public officer informed them that the minister was not available because they were on leave. But further evidence has been adduced before this House confirming that the IG was at a public function, that the minister was somewhere launching a Boda Boda Sacco Association or something of that kind. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we are calling upon you to further give direction in furtherance of Senator James Orengo's point on what will be done to this particular officer who misled a committee of this House. And now we are here with a stalemate on our hands because they did not give the right information. Had they been prudent and diligent to ensure that they give Senator Haji's committee the proper information, then we wouldn't be here, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I'd be humbly requesting that you guide us with regards to that particular issue.
Senator Cherargei, give us your point of order. Then Senator Wamatangi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. When I move a motion of adjournment in the morning, and seconded by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., there were specific directions that you gave. And as the mover of the motion, Mr. Speaker, having read Article 153, Article 125, that there were specific directions that were needed to be given. In the spirit, what Kofi Annan said, and I like Senator Wetangula said, he said, in the words of Kofi Annan, you don't know the value of something until you lose it. I empathize and sympathize with colleagues that have been arrested. I have been intimidated and arrested before. I can imagine the speed that Senator Malala is approaching Nakuru. It is not a good speed. I went through Kakamega, Bungoma, up to Kisumu. And I'm telling you, that car does not have brakes. So, Mr. Speaker, the other day I was arrested somewhere in Ngong Road. And thanks to Senator Okongo Mugeni and most of the learned seniors here, they came. I was being taken there like an ambulance. So, Mr. Speaker, there was a specific instructions, Mr. Speaker, that you gave. You said the Committee on Security should come back with information and directions that you have taken. Mr. Speaker, for the sake of continuity, and I want to support the Leader of Minority, Let us dispose of the feedback and the report of the National Security Committee chaired by Senator Haji. Then now we can move to the second adjournment motion that was given by Senator Kithure Kindiki. And Mr. Speaker, if we go that way, the cabinet ministers, the senior civil servants will respect this House. If you allow, you don't give directions on this matter today, this House will be treated like a rubber stamp in future decisions. So, Mr. Speaker, as you retreat to provide directions and orders on this matter, the minister, the IG, and other government officials who are supposed to provide answers to the adjournment motion I raised on the arrest of Senator Langat, Senator Lilegwe, and Senator Cleophas Malala. Let them come and satisfy the House that the reasons that were being arrested, which we are tempted to believe was not malicious. And I think it is very important that we separate those issues, Mr. Speaker, because it is very important for this country, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the intimidation, coercion, and blackmailing of elected leaders will be determined by your ruling today. You know, they say, there is a paraphrasing, someone said in this House in the morning, that when they came for the Jew, I did not speak because I was not a Jew. But when everybody has been came for, when they came for the final one, there was no one to speak for you, Mr. Speaker. And I think, Mr. Speaker, please provide direction, if it is possible. The Minister of Interior, the Inspector General of Police, the Director Criminal Investigation, DCI, they must be summoned to appear before the Parliament and the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to tell the country what is happening, Mr. Speaker. It was disheartening to see senators peeping out like prisoners in their own houses, Mr. Speaker. And let me say for the record, I am the champion of this revenue formula on 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. But when it comes to impunity and forcing people to make choices, Mr. Speaker, I am afraid I will not be party to coercion and blackmail so that people can make a certain decisions. I want 1.4 billion. I want 1.4 billion to go to Nandi County, but I don't want blood and to be spilled for the people of Nandi to gain. Let us make a decision where everybody is comfortable to make the decision. And that is why in the morning, in my own wisdom, I move an adjournment for the sake of our colleagues, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, let us allow the House and the Senate as a House to make these decisions based on their own comfort, not under coercion, intimidation, blackmail. And you know, Mr. Speaker, personally, I am not afraid to be arrested. I have been arrested 4 times. I know what to do when I'm being arrested. I know quite a number of DCIOs and officers. I know how to talk to them nicely to ensure I get nice food. I don't fear arrest, but what I'm saying, please don't use this privilege. There should be a parliamentary privilege that our colleagues must be protected from, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are not on trial, but the decisions that you will make today will go in the history and also history of this state. Mr. Speaker, somebody said, and I think he's a good reader of the Bible, that do not fear those who kill the flesh only, but fear those who take flesh and the soul. Mr. Speaker, give direction to this House, summon the Minister of Interior, summon the Inspector General of Interior. By the way, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, the Inspector General of Police is an appointee of this House. We vetted him. Why don't we summon him? The minister in charge of Interior, National Security, is also the chairman of government projects. How can he disobey the House that he needs to partner when he's coordinating national government projects? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you need to rule on the adjournment motion that I gave. Mr. Speaker, make us proud once again and make Senate great again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kimani Wamatangi, what's your point of order then? And keep them short.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I promise to keep it short, and by that, I hope it doesn't insinuate that I'm the one who keeps them longest. But, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to, in support of what my colleagues have said, Mr. Speaker, because this is a house of not only rules, but also precedents and customs, Mr. Speaker. We have a way with which we execute our business, Mr. Speaker, and nothing would be easier, because you give very clear directions before we adjourned, that the relevant officers of government must be availed, Mr. Speaker, contacted by the committee and give a response, Mr. Speaker. And because of the tradition and customs of this House, the easiest thing, Mr. Speaker, that would have happened, Mr. Speaker, is if the committee would table to you, or to this House for that matter, either the invitation that they have sent to those individuals who are just across the road, Mr. Speaker. And then once we have that invitation, you are able, Mr. Speaker, to give very clear directions if in the event that the committee sat and overlooked the necessity to put quickly in writing and take it across, Mr. Speaker, can you direct that they do so such that when you give orders, they are backed, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, or can the chairman confirm, Mr. Speaker, that that communication was made in a way that you can incontrovertibly yourself give clear directions, Mr. Speaker? Because were it not for the misunderstanding that is being brought here, every senator in this House, Mr. Speaker, is clear. No single senator...
What's your point of information? Keep it short, Senator Wamatangi. That's not a point of order.
No single senator in this House is for any senator's arrest. That point is settled.
What's your point
Speaker.
of information? Do you want to be informed?
Let me finish, Mr. Speaker. I don't think I need the information because I want to finish. Mr. Speaker, my point is very, very clear that all of us are clear in our minds that there is no person who can sit here elected or nominated to support the arrest of another colleague. And let us not mix these two issues, Mr. Speaker. When we speak about the incarceration of members, we have to speak clearly with authority and firmly. But when we speak about other issues, Mr. Speaker, we also have to be clear.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is very clear, Mr. Speaker. Can the chairperson and the team in that committee put before this House, Mr. Speaker, the invitation so that we can be able to act on it, or what they have used to invite the necessary officers, Mr.
What's
Speaker?
your point of order, Senator Mwaura? Then Senator Dulo. Why don't you speak from where you are, Senator Mwaura?
Mr. Speaker, I really want your guidance so that we make a determination of whether we are now discussing the adjournment motion or we are discussing the report of the Security Committee. So that instead of using points of orders to debate, then it becomes very confusing. So I seek your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. And also, having said this, let me just put it on record that this House is the one actually on trial. Because if we allow extra senatorial moves or motions to predetermine how this House conducts itself, I think we are going on a very slippery road to nowhere. Because, Mr. Speaker, there is one aspect here that we may differ politically, and indeed we can differ until the cows come home. In fact, I would want to say that I have come to realize that in politics, people have learned how to hunt with the foxes and to run with the hares. That's the nature of our politics. However, Mr. Speaker, if we allow that this House, based on an opinion of an individual, that you can actually be refused to express that opinion, Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ. As a human rights defender, as somebody who stands for the rights of the marginalized and the downtrodden, I think, Mr. Speaker, we have a wondrous occasion to demonstrate that devolution must be defended, because devolution is the revolution.
What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I want to say...
What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, is that... Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is it in order, therefore, for us to be discussing a substantive motion while at the same time having an adjournment motion? Mr. Speaker, I seek your guidance that you must rule on what debate is actually on the floor of the House, and I support that we should ensure that all senators are protected.
Okay. Then Senator Dulo.
Mr. Speaker, I am sorry to rise again, those lawyers who are here, like Senator Okongo Omugeni, know that you can go to court on a writ of habeas corpus. And I want to be listened to carefully. Senator Omatangi.
Order. Let's listen to what Senator Orengo is saying.
Yeah.
Senator Whip, you are so nomadic.
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, if you approach the court on a writ of habeas corpus, you don't need to be heard both sides. You can go on an application, on an affidavit. If somebody has disappeared or you don't know his whereabouts, the court, in looking at the material that you have before it, can make a decision. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter which you can act so motu or sua sponte, which means that, Mr. Speaker, you made an order yourself, and you don't need to be persuaded that there has been a violation. I urge you, Mr. Speaker, to make a ruling on the question of the violation, and then we proceed to the question of adjournment. Because otherwise we'll be mixing the two. I urge you, let us have a ruling on that question of the violation by the CS and his team.
Okay. Are these points of order, or Senator Dulo, is it a point of order? Because I wanted to make a ruling on that. What is it, Senator Dulo?
Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to inform the House that I sit in the Committee of the National Security. Mr. Speaker, after you gave your ruling, we went out, and we called the clerk of the committee, where we agreed we should actually call both the CS and the PS Interior and other relevant stakeholders to appear before us 1 o'clock. And I want to put this for record because my colleague here, Senator Wamatangi, was asking for a record whether we summoned the minister or not. Mr. Speaker, before we even met, the committee of the clerk wrote to the CS and the PS. Number two, they sent a message to all those relevant institutions. Number three, the clerk was able to call the PA to the minister. And I don't think it's really fair for us to go around in circles trying to justify whether the committee has done what is required or not. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we even discussed the matter of summon. And clearly, as far as the procedure of the Senate is concerned, summon requires 7 days. And the matter before us does not require us to take 7 days to make a decision on it. Mr. Speaker, I will urge you, the matter before us today, it's really very important. It has been adjourned, this is the almost 10th time. But it wasn't the making of certain senators in this House. But what is before us is the lives of our colleagues who are in incarceration. Mr. Speaker, you must make a ruling on this matter, and I think we cannot proceed on any other motion or anything else until our colleagues are produced on the floor of this House. I thank you.
Order. Senator Sakaja, what's the information? I want to make a ruling on this.
Chair, I just want, Mr. Speaker, to inform you, Mr. Speaker, and the House. Number one, Senator Wamatangi asked for the correspondence. This was a directive from the chair that you sit on. In fact, any correspondence, the Hansard alone is enough, Mr. Speaker. And you already said it clearly. And this is a committee I know I have chaired, and I know how we've been working with that ministry. Sometimes many things of security are urgent in nature. Mr. Speaker, instead of going around in circles, because people will come here holding fort for different arms of government, saying a letter needs to go 7 days and we need to do how many for how long, Mr. Speaker, it is clear, and everybody has said, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that there is no coincidence as to why 3 members were arrested on the same day that they're coming to vote, Mr. Speaker. And we don't need to be poetic about it. Mr. Speaker, what we asked for in the morning, what I heard Senator Orengo asking for in the morning, what Senator Mutula and others asked for in the morning, Mr. Speaker, is that you, with the authority of the Senate, as the leader of this House, direct, because we don't want to be told, oh, this one is being charged with sanitizers, or this one is being charged because he didn't social distance. You were to direct, Mr. Speaker, that the Inspector General of Police produces those 3 senators before this House, Mr. Speaker. That is the direction that we wanted. And after that happens, is when we will meet. Because the committee can consider, and they'll give us all sorts of excuses that the minister has given. They can give any reason. They can say this one has another case of graft, this one has another case, etc. What we ask, Mr. Speaker, is for the 3 senators to be produced before this House, before any further discussion on the 3rd revenue formula that is to be discussed, Mr.
Senator
Speaker.
Mohammed Haji.
That is what we want, Mr. Speaker, and that is irreducible. That is irreducible.
Order, members.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I do not intend to stand up. But
Order, senators. I can hardly hear what...
As a result of the question raised by Senator Wamatangi as to what the committee did, I laid on the table of the House the minutes of the committee, which you can read, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Senator Kabak, is it on the same? What's the intervention?
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Speaker, I'm very short. I'll be very short with what you're about to rule. Mr. Speaker, I want to give some caution to the direction which Senators Orengo and Senator Weta Ngula have directed you to do. As they have, they have requested you to do. Mr. Speaker, I want you to look at the logic and the issue of the timeline so that you won't fall short of the logic in terms of maybe ruling, and I'm not being preemptive, that, and you have been told by Senator Orengo that, the 3 senators who have been arrested, they can be represented by lawyers in court. But you see now, the cause effect is the catch here. And I would also concur with Senator Ndulo that before we do anything, those 3 senators who are incarcerated must be produced before we do another debate. I think that is the logic. Otherwise, if you are going to rule, Mr. Speaker, that, we adjourn, we proceed, then definitely it will mean, therefore...
You are anticipating my ruling.
I'm finishing.
You are anticipating my ruling.
It is a fear which I have, and it may come to pass.
No.
It may come to pass in terms of... Give me time, I speak, because I represent good people of Machakos. And when people are speaking, I didn't utter even a word. The Speaker, the nominated senator, you need to protect me, the nominated senator, whom I respect so much, of Kisumu, Rose Nyamunga, she's interfering with my flow of thought. I don't know what she has eaten. She was here to tell us.
You contribute.
Today, maybe she's taken something. So, Mr. Speaker, not being preemptive, I'm saying that look at the bigger picture. What all the senators are saying in this Senate. And Article 1, they are the representative of the people. That those senators must be here for any vote, of any nature, of any kind. Mr. Speaker, I support the adjournment.
Senator Kamar, what did you want? Carl was on the floor, but there's a point of order. Yes, Senator Kamau. Is it on the same?
I also rise to support that you rule on the issue of the report from the committee before we go into the...
Order, senators. I can hardly hear what...
Mr. Speaker, this morning, Senator Gerard Gay moved a motion that passed unanimously. Some of us even didn't get a chance, although we were anxious to actually support that we adjourn for the sake of our colleagues who are not here. It would be a shame that we have colleagues that are very senior lawyers in the House and our colleagues are suffering. So it was good that we adjourned, as all of us supported unanimously. But we need to sort out that before we talk of adjournment. We need to sort out, and I'm urging you, Speaker, that even as you rule on this adjournment, we start thinking about our relationship with those whom we call to the committees. Because this is not the first time that we have had members of the executive not appearing in the committees. There are members who never appear at all. They say they must appear only to the National Assembly. And when an issue like this takes place, then we ask ourselves, how then shall we get justice out for our own selves? Mr. Speaker, I support that we separate those two issues so that we actually dispose of this and go straight to the motion by Senator Kindiki of adjournment, because mixing it has confused a number of us on where we are going. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to take much more time. I just want to support that you deal with the motion first, as the chair has tabled. Thank you. Okay, order, members. I think there was that mix-up because there was no motion on the report. This is a special sitting. So my direction that time and this time is that the Committee of National Security use provisions of Article 153.3 and 125 to summon the minister and his team by Wednesday this week. It is so directed. Ekal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been a while that I wanted to speak because I had things to say about all that passed. I have reason to support the adjournment, and I want to speak on three issues. One, I want to speak about the formula that has brought us to where we are today. That formula is going to split this country.
We are talking about adjournment.
Yes.
Yes. Not the formula.
Well, I wanted to begin from where I should have been when I did not get the chance to talk. But let's talk about the adjournment. Mr. Speaker, I'd like you to consider the idea of adjournment without voting. Respect the views of the rest of us. We think that for fairness, we should adjourn without voting till further notice. The reason is that 3 of our colleagues are not here. And those 3 of our colleagues are out on questionable circumstances. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'd like people to listen because I have a point to make here. There is no reason as to why those 3 members are not here. Only a little child, less than 2 years, can be convinced that those people were arrested because they did something. One senator is accused of distributing sanitizers to people who need it. Surely in this country, in this time, who would accuse somebody of distributing sanitizer, since there are so many people that are dying now in this country, there are so many people that are infected now in this country, and need sanitizer to stay clean, need sanitizer to keep away COVID-19. So that is no reason at all to arrest anybody. And another member has been arrested on the question of cattle rustling. Now, it's very hard for me to think that somebody would accuse a senator of cattle rustling. cattle rustling is as old as the communities that rustle cattle today. And the reason why those communities do cattle rustling is because of the very reason that you didn't want me to speak about. There are very few resources, and as a result, those people want to have cattle so they can have good lives. So this has been going on for a long time. You've been at this in Turkana, Mr. Speaker, and you've got reports about cattle rustling in different parts of Kenya, especially in Turkana. And nothing was done about that. And even today, cattle rustling is going on. Nothing has been done. So how is it that a member of parliament is now accused of having rustled cattle? That's a flimsy reason, because others before him should have been arrested. Why now is this person being arrested? So this only tells me that this arrest was only so that these people would not vote. So because you see what everybody is feeling is that these people should be here to vote, I request you, Mr. Speaker, to adjourn the motion, adjourn this particular House till these members of parliament are here, and then we are going to take that vote.
Senator Kwamboka Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise to oppose the adjournment. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans are watching. We've been here severally discussing about this revenue issue. And Mr. Speaker, if someone is arrested, we senators, we are not special than the common mwananchi. Let the police do their mandate. Let us do our mandate here. We came here today for this special sitting just to discuss this issue of revenue. Mr. Speaker, through your wisdom, guide us. Instead of, and the way you see the emotions are going up and down, Mr. Speaker, through your wisdom, kindly show us direction. If you are going to vote, let us vote. For those who are opposing, for those who are for the adjournment, Mr. Speaker, so that we can move on to another debate of the motion.
Senator Mwaruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I was actually a bit worried because my people were asking me, why aren't you contributing? But the truth is that most people were contributing through points of orders in all those sessions that we've been having. But let me say this, Mr. Speaker, that it would be a good thing if we adjourn, as Senator for Turkana is proposing, that we don't have the numbers and we don't know why some of our members are not here. In the morning, we don't know the reasons why they are arrested. We adjourned in the morning, Mr. Speaker, to go and find out what's wrong with them. Now we know. And I was party to the party which went to Senator Malala's house. He told us himself that the reason why he was arrested is that he was caught distributing sanitizers. Now, is that really a reason? Mr. Speaker, we want fairness in this matter. We want fairness because for some of us who have been historically marginalized, devolution is everything. We are only able to determine division of revenue to our counties. That is the 316.5 billion. We do not know how the rest of the 2.7 trillion, Mr. Speaker, is used. That is why we are saying we have the people of Kakamega, through their representative, Senator Malala, who are supposed to be represented in this House. We have the people of Bomet, who are supposed to be represented here. But the representative is not here. So I strongly support the motion of adjournment, that we adjourn until these people are produced in this House, Mr. Speaker. Until they are produced, that was our bare minimum, so that when we are adjudicating on this issue of revenue sharing, we have all the members or all the delegations of our counties represented. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I would like to say is that even if we were to proceed in terms of voting, we need to be assured that those delegations like Kakamega, Bomet, who have written letters here that they don't want to be represented in the voting, that they are not represented. Mr. Speaker, we need that assurance. And the other day, Senator for Nairobi said that at times when you are almost losing a match, then you run away with the ball. We would want to see a situation where fairness is served and served right. Injustice here is injustice everywhere. Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that what we are going through as a country, Mr. Speaker, is sad because we have regions that have been historically marginalized. And if we continue without our people from the other side of the aisle who have decided to support us, the people who are actually gaining money, but they've said they want one united Kenya. That's what we've been fighting for, that we want one united Kenya. The people who have been marginalized cannot donate any money because they have nothing to donate. And we shall fight for devolution because it serves us right as the marginalized people, using our sweat, using our blood, and by our flesh. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wako, try to use 5 minutes. I can see the interests are quite, then Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's not me? Is it Wako with a Q or Wako with a K?
You're the one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this motion of adjournment. Mr. Speaker, before I say what I want to say,